Houston on our podcast. She empowers women through the outer, inner, higher, and deeper work of wealth. That's just fantastic. We have so much to go into and ask her about, but Barbara, could you please just jump in, introduce yourself to our audience, and share your story?
So, I am a financial therapist and wealth coach. But if anyone had told me this is what I'd be doing, Maggie, when I was your age, I would have told them they were nuts. Because I didn't understand money. I grew up in a very wealthy family and I didn't understand money. I just wanted to spend it. And the only advice my father ever gave me about money was don't worry. Because under that was the unspoken assumption there'll always be a man to take care of you. And I thought that was great advice. I loved it. And indeed, there was a man, and he was a lawyer. He went to work for H&R Block, who was my father, and then he became a stockbroker. So he was perfect, right? I found out very early in our marriage is that he was a compulsive gambler. And throughout the course of our 15 years, I find out every year that he was gambling my money, my inheritance away. And I was so terrified by and intimidated by anything financial. I let him manage the money. He paid all the bills, he did all the investings. I just signed whatever he told me to sign. And then after 15 years, we finally got a divorce. And I decided money's not my thing. I do not want to deal with money. Well, I have this theory that if you don't deal with your money will deal with you. And in
Oh,
the next year, I got tax bills for almost $2 million for back taxes my ex didn't pay, for illegal deals he got us in. And my signature was on everything because, I just signed everything.
oh my gosh.
I did not have anywhere near $1 million, nowhere near. My ex had left the country. They couldn't touch him. And my father wouldn't lend me the money. And that's when I knew I had to get smart. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I had three daughters.
Oh
One
my
was
gosh.
a baby. I was not going to raise those girls on the street. So I did everything they tell you to do. I read the books, I went to classes, and my eyes would glaze over and my brain would fog up. And I didn't know what I was going to do, but I had those three daughters and I was not going to raise them on the street. And I swear to God, I believe when you are committed, like no back doors, when you're totally committed, the universe revolves to help you reach your goal. And I was at the time a journalist writing for the San Francisco Business Times, and I was hired for a freelance project to interview women who were smart with money.
Wow.
Those interviews changed my life. I not only got smart about money, but I wrote my first book, Prince Charming Isn't Coming: How Women Get Smart About Money. And now, 8 books later, I'm talking
Wow.
to you as a financial expert.
That's amazing. Wait, let's unpack some of that story. So, did you know every single year that he was gambling and you just looked the other
Oh,
way?
many, many, many times. No, I didn't just look the other way. I saw it. I would confront him and he would speak in gibberish. I don't know, he would just talk in circles. And I felt stupid. I felt incapable. And my parents, because they didn't teach me about money, sent that message that I'm incapable. And so I really just I felt trapped, I felt helpless, I felt powerless.
Yeah.
And he left the country, and there you were with these three little ones.
Yep.
Wow. So, isn't it kismet that you were interviewing women who were smart about money? I mean, if the universe isn't telling you something, that's amazing.
Well, I really believe when you're ready,
Yep.
that teach your peers, and I really do believe that commitment is the key. Like a deep commitment, like no matter what happens, damn it. And I couldn't have done it. Like I had a teacher one time, a spiritual teacher. He said, if you can't do it for you, do it for someone you love more than you.
Yep.
And so I was terrified and my eyes would fog up, but my kids, all I had to do was look at my kids and I did not want to raise them to be like me, helpless and powerless.
So, how do you go about managing a $2 million tax bill?
Well, I got pit bull lawyers, like
Okay.
pit bulls, and they got it down to a manageable sum that if I sold everything in my trust, I had to sell everything. There were 3 properties I couldn't get to. So I sold everything that could pay off the tax bills. But I knew if I didn't get smart, I'd get more tax bills. Something would happen.
Yeah.
So that level of commitment and looking at my daughters drove me. And I had some money coming in from those properties. So I knew if I really saved, if I really watched my spending, I could do it. And I did. And it was really tough, but I did it. And but I still had problems. And that's why I say getting smart about money, that financial success is a 4-pronged process.
Okay.
There's the practical. That's the outer work about the practical. And I couldn't get it. My brain could not comprehend it. I felt so incapable. And I believed, as my father told me, making and managing money is a man's job. And I believed it. And our beliefs is what determines what we do.
Oh, yeah.
So I just was committed. And I kept going to those classes. But what I did is looked at the inner work of wealth. I started going to therapy. I started looking, and I remember in my first session at the therapist, I went in and I said, I really want to get smart. I really want to get smart about money. You've got to help me. I really want to get smart. And then what he did is he moved his chair and he said, now pretend I'm no longer your therapist, but I'm a voice in your head. So talk to me like I'm a voice in your head. So I looked at him and I said, okay, I didn't say Daniel. I said, okay, I really, really want to get smart. I really do. And he looked me in the eye as a voice in my head and said, no, you don't. And it was like, I couldn't argue. It was like someone took the air out of my balloon. I couldn't argue. That's the moment I realized, oh my God, I was terrified. If I started taking charge of money, I'd lose everything. It's better to let my husband do that. I was terrified of what my parents would think and I was really scared that a man wouldn't love me if I was financially successful. Now, I didn't know all this. That's why our unconscious beliefs, it's so important. It's not enough to do the practical. If you get stuck, it's important to look at what your attitudes, beliefs, and decisions you made about yourself and money in the world.
Yeah.
And
so,
then there's the other. Okay, do you want to go?
no, go ahead. Keep going.
Okay. And then there's that other, which is what I call the higher work of wealth. And that's what really, after I got, looked at the psychology, my emotional blocks, I believe the higher work of wealth, because I believe women, once we are financially stable, once we have food on the table, a roof over our head, some disposable income to get our mani-pedis or whatever we want, we're no longer motivated by money. Well, yeah, we want to make money. But what motivates us is helping others. And so what happened for me is I began to start understanding money. I realized what I want to do with this is use what happened to help others. And so that's what also motivated me to keep learning and going through that hard stuff and all the challenges and the obstacles. And then the fourth one, which was pretty new for me, was what I call the deeper work of wealth. And that's the mind brain connection. And that's when I started I wrote a book. My last book was called Rewire for Wealth, where I brought in neuroscience and understanding how to train our mind to rewire our brain is what makes it so much easier for us to change our behaviors.
That's so interesting.
Thank
What's
you.
the fourth pillar?
That's it. It's the outer work of wealth, the inner work of wealth, the psychological, the deeper work of wealth, the spiritual, and the higher work, the deeper work of wealth, which is the mind-brain connection.
Got it. Wow, you went deep on that from somebody who didn't know anything to that. That's amazing. So,
It's pretty amazing.
yeah, I mean, so tell us your journey. So, you hired some attorneys that helped you with this tax bill. You made some financial changes. You kept your eye on the ball.
No,
And then
it was messy, much
it was
messy.
messy. Okay, tell us the messy part.
And it is for most women.
Yeah.
Because you have to get over this hump of fear. So while I was doing this, I was going to all these classes, these transformational classes. And so I was priming my mind to change. And I also found a book called A Course in Miracles, which is a spiritual text. And I started applying spirituality and really working with my higher power, with God, goddess, all that is, whatever you want to call it. And so I brought in all those tools. And as I did that, I don't know, it's just like the blocks and barriers started melting. But it was messy. It was messy and it was tough for a while. And then it became incredible.
So it seems like your mindset played so much in overcoming this kind of daunting situation.
Daunting, that's a really good word, Maggie. That was a very daunting situation. I haven't used that word to describe it. But yeah, mindset's everything.
Yeah.
Mindset is everything. Yes, it was completely mindset, but it didn't come right away. I had to really work on myself and do the deeper inner work.
And I appreciate that you share that it was messy, as like it always seems when you read a book or listen to these some of these podcasts, I did do a couple things and bada bing, bada boom, I was there, and it wasn't, it's not that way, and
No,
hindsight's
it
always 2020, but I know when you're in it and you're deep in the trenches, it's not comfortable. But you do
And
have to
that's
put
the
in the
key.
work.
That's the key. The key to financial success is the willingness to go where you fear. If you ask me one thing, I would say, what is it? I have my three daughters. Now they're all grown. They're in their 30s, 40s, 50s. But they always call me. They always call me when they feel stuck or challenged or confused. And they say, what should I do? Now they know the question I'm going to ask them. And I always ask them the same thing. And they don't like it, but they still keep calling. And I always say, well, what are you most scared to do? And they tell me, and said, that's where you need to go. Because success in anything, I don't care if it's losing weight or making money, it always lies just outside your comfort zone. So fear is the signal. Fear signals the path you need to follow.
I think it's so true though. Anything I feel like I've overcome, I was like, yeah, we had to step out on that skinny limb, and really be out there.
Yes, yes. And people think if they're scared, that means they're not supposed to go there.
Right.
Well, it's not.
Which
I mean,
is, you've got to learn the different voices inside you and learn how to trust yourself. Because there are some of your gut saying, no, 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 that's not it. And then there's other ones that are like, we know we need to do this, and you have to know what voice to listen to.
and the way you know what voice to listen to, and this may sound simplistic, but it's not, if you try it, is how you feel. If you feel scared and tight and frustrated, that's your ego talking. That's the part that wants to keep you safe, and it's never safe to you outside your comfort zone. But if you just feel like a calmness, or yeah, I think maybe that's right, or if you just feel good, that's a sign that's where you need to go.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So much of what we're talking about is your inner self. Nothing about money in the bank.
I'm going to tell you something. When I wrote my first book, Prince Charming Isn't Coming, I interviewed, I don't know, over 100 women who were smart with money. And I noticed something it became very obvious after a while. And I remember interviewing a psychologist who specialized in money. Her name was Olivia Mellon. She recently died. And I said, I think I noticed something. I think I noticed that women who are have trouble with money are afraid of their power. And once they own their power or get comfortable with it, they get over it. I said, why? I said to her, why are women so afraid of their power? And she said to me something that gave me chills. She said, because powerful women have been burned at the stake. And I think that we have for centuries suffered horrible consequences for demonstrating our power.
Yeah.
So I
Even
believe-
today.
oh, for sure,
All
for
the
sure
time.
we did. For sure. So here's the thing. So really, the key, the difficulty, women have difficulty with their power, with their money, because it's our fear of or ambivalence of power that keeps us stuck. So when you stop focusing on the money and you start looking at your power, and my definition of a powerful woman is someone who knows who she is, who knows what she wants, and expresses that in the world unapologetically. And so, in other words, that means saying no to what we don't want. It's speaking up and telling our truth. But instead, we water ourselves down so we don't make waves, because we think that's how we keep ourselves safe.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So really, this is about power. And
It
I
is.
believe the world needs powerful women more than ever. And that's why I do this. It's not for me about money. It's about empowerment.
Yeah.
You're so spot on. I have chills.
Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore. And you know, we always say money is power, and that is your power. And so
No, money is not power. Look at my marriage. When I was married to my first husband, he had the power. I had the money. He didn't have any money. I had the money. But I gave him the power by letting him make all the decisions. Money is not power. Understanding money is power.
Okay.
that's a good catch, yeah. And so, you know, you shared that you grew up, you know, relying on your father and later your husband to handle the finances. And so what advice would you give to other women who might still be dependent on others for their financial decisions? And how can they kind of start that journey into financial empowerment themselves?
A couple things. One, start educating yourself, and two, get support. So let me tell you an easy way to educate yourself. And this is what I did. Because someone told me to get the Wall Street. Oh, when I interview these smart women, all these smart women for my first book, most of them subscribe to the Wall Street Journal. So I subscribed to the Wall Street Journal. That sucker comes every day. I couldn't even understand a word it said, but I did something really smart. I took the finance section at the time, it was section C, and I put it on the kitchen counter. And every day I'd walk by it. I figured by osmosis. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, so let me give you 3 steps to get smart or smarter about money, because it never ends. I still do these 3 steps. And it's like this, I call it the learning by osmosis. But every day, the first step, every day read something about money, even for just a minute or two. Because so much of getting smart or smarter about money is familiarizing yourself with the jargon and the current trends. So, you know, even if it's just opening the business section of the newspaper and perusing the headlines, or just taking a book at the end of the day and reading one paragraph, or when you're standing in line at the supermarket, you take a money magazine instead of People and you leaf through it. So every day, read something about money, even just for a minute or two. Every week, talk about money with someone, preferably who knows more than you, because I believe we women, it's our secrecy and silence that keeps us stuck. We don't talk. So anybody I found that knew anything about money, I'd say, "Ooh, can I pick your brain?" So, and you don't need to ask them how much they make or anything like that. You ask them questions like, how did you get smart? what was the biggest mistake you made? What was the smartest thing you did? What's the best advice you gave? What did you read? What did you do? So you ask them questions like that, and people, what I found, people really love to talk and share their story. So every day, read a minute or two. Every week, have a conversation about money. And then every month, save automatically. Automatically have money transferred from your paycheck or your checking account to a savings account. And you don't miss what you don't see. You know, it's the mindless saving. So every day read, every week talk, and every month save. And you do this for 3 months, and you will be amazed at the difference.
I'm
I love
writing
that.
that down.
Yeah, those are some great tips. Super actionable. And so are you subscribed to the Wall Street Journal right now?
Of course. I love that paper.
Yeah. Now you're one of those women that you've talked to, you know, and so it's interesting to always see it come full circle. And I'm sure you pick up so much more now that you know the jargon, the lingo, the, you know, all the stuff, you know, as you read it.
Right. Do you read the Wall Street Journal, Maggie?
I do read it some. I should read it more. I definitely don't read it every day.
You don't have to read it every day. You're just even leafing through it.
Yeah, I'll definitely leaf through and, you know, see the headlines, see what I need to know about for sure.
You got this. You know this.
Well, and we're at a place, you know, today where women are coming into the largest transfers of wealth in history to the tune of almost $30 trillion. And we want women to be ahead of the game and know what to do with that big wealth transfer, not give it away, really leverage their monies in a way that builds them a beautiful financial life, and really learn about money, as you're saying, getting in front of it and really learning about money. What would you suggest women do? I know you just gave us 3 excellent tips, but with this great wealth transfer, what are some of your thoughts?
So it's not just a great wealth transfer. There's always been, when I was in my 20s, there was a great wealth transfer. There's always a great wealth transfer. So this is really good, and I love it. But I also want to encourage women to know they can earn it. Like they can earn their wealth. So whether it's transferred to them or whether they earn it, the key is, the other thing I said is you educate yourself, but you also get support. Which is why I created a community, a safe community where women of like-minded women, where we can talk about money as women.
Yeah.
Because we talk about money, as you know more than anyone, we talk about money very differently
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
men do. And I used to teach, when I first got into this 40 years ago, I would teach co-ed groups. No, I stopped that right away because when men would take over and
Yep.
women would stop talking and women would feel intimidated. So start finding a buddy or someone to do this with, to start reading, to start taking classes, to start joining communities where women talk about money. And in fact, Emory University did a study that they found that women learn best in groups with other women, that parts of their brain light up when they're talking about money with women, and they don't have that when men are involved.
I
could see that.
sounds reasonable to me. As you said, you know, women, they feel intimidated just having the conversation, and then with there's men involved, the men, you know, start mansplaining, and this conversation kind of goes south.
And also, for us, I remember after my first book came out, somebody from Harris Polling, I think it's called Harris Polling. Anyway, he was a pollster, and they were doing this big study for a brokerage firm on women and money. And so we were having these conversations, and he called me one time. He had just come from a focus group of women. They talked about money, and I said, "Well, how was it?" And he said something that I had to laugh because this was new to him. He said, "Oh my God, it's a really emotional subject for women."
You think?
Welcome to the party.
Well, look at the financial industry. They do not acknowledge that at all. I think the 2 biggest things stopping women from really getting money, really getting it easily, is 1, unhealed emotions like anger, and 2 is unhealed trauma. And so it's really important, if you're like, I had a lot of unhealed trauma, And it wasn't until I could address that, as well as my other issues, that I could really break through.
Interesting. Well, and we always say, the financial industry is a model that was built by men, for men, to sell to men. And it really hasn't changed. I mean, today there's only about 17 to 19% of financial advisors are women. And even if women get into the industry, it's very difficult sometimes for them to stay in the industry because the model does not accommodate what women want and need in a career.
I know, that's why I love that you have lists of female-oriented financial professionals. That is
Yeah.
brilliant, because it's very easy to get intimidated by someone who's always looking at your husband instead of you.
And
Or,
so many of these experts understand, that it is emotional, that it is so much behavioral finance. It's not just, your returns and those numbers, but is everyone safe? Is everyone protected? Will everyone be okay if I'm not here? Which are more of the questions on the mind of a woman, making sure, I don't care what the number is, are we protected? That could be 14, it could be 82.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, are we protected? Are we safe? Are we going to be okay?
yeah, and is it safe for me emotionally?
Yeah.
Is it safe because that primitive brain of ours are still afraid we will be punished
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
we start gambling?
Yeah. So, and that's what we're about at Purse Strings, a community where women can come together, have these conversations, learn from amazing women like you, Barbara, and your story. And so many women, they feel they're stuck. And we know the foundation of getting unstuck is learning about and understanding money and knowing how to leverage it and how to save it and how to take care of yourself by really managing and I love that nuance that you put it there. It's not about having money, it's about really understanding money. It's beautiful.
And
you.
so there is one question we do like to, wrap up with and ask all of our guests. And that is, what does financial freedom look like to you?
Oh, it looks like freedom. It looks like choices. It looks like I can walk in a store and I can buy what I want. I don't have to check my checkbook first.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I get that.
And,
Tell
and it
us.
also means
Go ahead.
it also means generosity. Because we women are giving by, most of us are giving by nature, but to give generously without spending less, saving more, and investing wisely is always an act of self-sabotage. Because not only you do jeopardize your future security, but you diminish the impact you can make with your money.
Yeah. And I think that's such a great nuance to put in there, is it's all about, filling your cup first before you can help fill everyone else's. And so we have to, make sure that we're okay before we keep giving back instead of just giving to everyone else before we fill our own cup.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. I have half my clients go into codependence, look at their codependency, and go to CODA meetings, Codependency Anonymous. Yes.
Oh,
I went to
interesting.
Codependency Anonymous for years.
I
That
didn't
was
know that was actually.
I didn't know it was a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, CODA? Yeah. You have never heard of codependency?
Well, yes, but in
It's
what
a
realm? Tell us.
So codependence, I actually went to a treatment program in Wickenburg, Arizona for codependence. Codependence is when you put everybody else's needs before your own, and not just your friends or family, but perfect strangers.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so what happens is you come last, and you ask us to put ourselves first, and we get terrified. It's like terrified. It's not in our DNA to do that. So much of the healing, it's so much of financial success and learning about money is really a healing journey.
Yeah.
All those emotional blocks and those barriers and that codependency.
So interesting. Barbara, tell us about the books that you have. That you've
So
written.
I have, well, my first book is out of print. So I have 7 books.
Wow.
First is The Prince Charming Isn't Coming. And then I knew that's helped me learn how to manage money and invest. That was great. But I didn't know, I was a chronic under earner all my life. So this was by the time I was in my 50s. and I wanted to overcome under earning. So I interviewed women who made 6 and 7 figures. And then my next book was Six Secrets of Six-Figure Women. And I started making 6 figures before I even finished writing that book. It was like phenomenal.
Good for
And so-
you.
I know I never write about what I know. I only write about what I want to learn.
That's
And then I
brilliant.
started teaching classes called Overcoming Under Earning to see if I could teach others what I had learned from these women. And that was my third book, Overcoming Under Earning. Then I self-published a couple books. I published, one was called Breaking Through, Getting Past the Stuck Points, and another was Finding a Financial Advisor You Can Trust. And then I wrote a book called Sacred Success, where I wanted to really talk about how spirituality really helped me. So it's Sacred Success, A Course in Financial Miracles. And then my last one, when I really saw the power of neuroscience and the importance of our brain, I wrote Rewire for Wealth.
Wow.
That's one I'm going to get.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
I have to say it's good. It was a bitch to write, but it's a good book.
It was worth it.
It's worth it, and it's something that we need to keep talking about, make a little bit more mainstream. It's not just these numbers and spreadsheets, but it's the behavioral finance and down to this neuroscience of it too. It all really affects, which I also think that's why we don't need to be so hard on ourselves. There's a lot of work to be done, and there's a lot to dive into, and there's a lot to learn. So just a little bit every day, one step at a time, and we'll get there.
Beautifully put, Maggie.
Thank you. Well, Barbara, this has been so much fun having you on today and having you share your expertise. The links to all your books and all your social media, of course, will be in the show notes so people can get your resources and reach out to you. But I appreciate you coming on and sharing your expertise and taking the time today to be on the Women in Money, the Shit We Don't Talk About podcast.
The shit we don't talk about. That's a great tagline.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you for sharing your amazing story. It's going to make a lot of ripples and a lot of interesting, thought-provoking ideas for women who don't think they can do it, but know that they can.
All right. Well, until next time, be financially fearless, and we'll talk to everyone again soon. Bye. Sweet. It was great.
You guys are great. You really are great. You are